Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. Be sure to check me out over on Rumble. There you'll find all of my stuff from YouTube, plus my political and social commentary and weekly current events, which YouTube frowns on. Links to my Rumble channel, as well as my other YouTube channels, and links to let you order my books are in the description of this video. If you enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. Now, on with the video. Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing a UFO activity video. Uh, this is an unusual story. This is out of Vietnam from 1968. It's right there on the Cambodian border. Uh, there was a special forces unit in the area at the time, and years later, three men from that unit, three separate men, came forward with, independently, and they all told the exact same story, almost verbatim. Not as in word for word, but it's the same damn story. Okay. If it was verbatim, you'd say they were coached or they were in cahoots. These guys hadn't seen each other in years. So anyway, here we go. A group of special forces soldiers were on a LRRP, a LRP, long range reconnaissance patrol, along the Cambodian border with South Vietnam, where Cambodia and South Vietnam meet. They were tracking supply routes for future bombing runs. The VC were receiving supply convoys from the north, and they were trying to stop that. Essentially, is what it boils down to. These special forces men witnessed a bright red-orange glow overhead. It was an object that appeared to be sort of melting. The object crashed just on the other side of the Cambodian border. Now, they thought it was a United States plane, a U.S. plane, so they trekked across the border to find it. Now, they couldn't really use long-range communications at that point because they knew that the Russians had radio tracking gear in the area, and they didn't want to give away their position, so they went across the border to find it. It was 3 to 4 miles through awful terrain. Once they saw the crash site, they knew that it was not a United States airplane. It resembled a giant metal egg that had cracked open upon impact. The entire area was very warm. It was the egg was a dull gray. The craft was a dull gray. Seemed to be made from a single piece of metal with no seams, bolts, rivets, or screws. The brush around the object was on fire, and they could not see inside through the crack. Uh, at that point, they felt they needed to call it in. So they called in this particular crash and reported themselves on site. They were surprised to learn that there were already aircraft en route. They were ordered to secure the site and sit tight, which is what they did. The first aircraft on site were a pair of F-4s, F-4 Phantom fighter jets. Some of the best aircraft in the world at the time. They still are. They're still viable, but right now they're obsolete. But back then they were top of the line. These two F-4s orbited the area around the craft, trying to making sure that no enemy aircraft were in the area. They thought that the object was either at that point the soldiers thought that the object was either from NASA or maybe Soviet, something that we were going to capture. The first helicopters to arrive were Hueys full of infantry. The infantry was not let near the object, but instead were deployed in a wide perimeter around it. It took 2 days to get that object out of the jungle. Other special forces units were brought in along with Air Force and Navy, what they call eggheads, is what they called them, scientists or whatever. One of them let slip that they were part of the, quote, program. Back then, that's what they called the UFO crash retrieval group at the time. This is not the usual type of story that I do on my channel, and I understand that. But the fact that three separate men, two of them in doctor's care, and facing some serious illnesses, all three of these guys recanted the same story. Usually I try to get details and find stories with corroborating evidence that give them a little more credibility. Anybody, there are tons of people see lights in the sky. You can't report on that because you don't know what it is. Normally what I try to do is get something with some video evidence or some photographic evidence from back in the day. Not now, because now those are they're too easy to fake. But back in the day, you could get film and video and photographic evidence, and it could be real. There's a good chance that it's real. When you have multiple witnesses in various areas, okay, different places see the same thing on the same night, that's corroborating evidence, in my opinion. The fact that these three men were all special forces soldiers gives me a lot of credibility. It tells me that this is a credible sighting. These three men were from the same special forces unit, and they're telling the same story. Even if we can't know their names or where it was, these guys are telling the story for a reason. They're telling it independently of each other, and that says a lot. Could this be a hoax? Sure. Yeah, obviously it could be. But I have learned a long time ago to give soldiers the benefit of the doubt when they tell you something, because the soldiers have seen a lot, and special forces have seen even more. So to me, this has a ring of truth to it. So I figured I'd relate that story. Again, there's not a lot of details, and I apologize for that, but it's a special forces mission in Vietnam from the 1960s. So there's not going to be a lot of details. Sorry. Hope this finds everybody well. You folks have a good one. God bless one and all.
Clarissa Lowe, a historian from the future. Delmore Kane, a Civil War veteran turned outlaw. This oddball pairing faces a conspiracy of epic proportions spanning the centuries. If you like action and adventure westerns with a splash of science fiction and fantasy, check out my book series Drifters and their ongoing adventures. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment.